Okay, we're rolling.
All right, this is an interview at the Public Library, Center Moriches, New York, 9th of March, 2004, 1 p.m. Interviewers are Wayne Clark and Mike Russert. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
Well, I was born in Bellmore, Long Island. My full name is Paul C. Patera, Paul Charles Patera. And my birth date is October the 1st, 1923.
Okay. What was your schooling before you went into the service?
Before I went in the service, I only went as high as junior high school.
Okay.
I completed junior high school. I started to go into high school, and then I opted for an industrial school because in my family, my mother was raising everybody, and I was the lowest. I was the youngest. I was the youngest, so I didn't want to be a burden on my mother, and she needed support in the house. So I went to take an industrial course so I could go out and work sooner. That was the Depression years. That's the way people did things.
Do you remember where you were and your reaction when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Exactly. You can't. That's traumatic, and the word traumatic came out a long time after. We never used it before then. We were playing ball in the street. I was working. I had already started working, and I guess I was probably around 17 years old at that time. I started working at 16, and I was probably around 17 years old at that time. I was in that 17 bracket, and we were playing ball in the street. A bunch of friends of mine, we belonged to a crowd, and somebody upstairs yelled out the window that Pearl Harbor was bombed. And who knew Pearl Harbor? Pearl Harbor was like nothing. It didn't mean anything. But we had a friend of ours that was in the Navy that was over there. His name was Joe Moran. I have to say that. I have to get his name in there because he was killed. He was the first one I ever knew to be killed, and he was a friend of ours. And his brother was playing with us on the street. So, of course, when this happened, then his brother knew where it was. So his brother told us where it was. It was in Hawaii, And then we discussed it, like that. And eventually we all decided to join the service. Because then what happened is George was his brother. Joe was the first one killed. And so George went in the service. He joined the Marines, and he went over there. And within a couple of months, about 3 months, I think it was, or 4 months, and he was dead. He was killed. So that's 2 boys, and the rest of the family was girls. So, it really upset the crowd and the group, So we all joined the service anyway, make a long story short. And I had to join, I had to sign up, I think it was in September of that year, because I wasn't old enough to get in. So I had to sign up before time. And then they gave me a 20-day furlough, and by the time the 20-day furlough was over, I was in. I think I needed my mother's signature or something like that, I don't remember. But anyway, so I went in the service.
Now, why did you enlisted then?
I enlisted, yeah. I enlisted through the draft board, though, and of course they give you the draft board number, which is a draft number. So it doesn't look like I enlisted, but I did enlist. I had to enlist.
You picked the Army.
Yeah, I picked the Army.
Why?
Well, I picked the Army because that's where my father was in. That's where the fighting is. I think the rest of the, to me, I mean, I'm not downing the Marines. But most of the people that get into the Marines, they're either in for the glory or they want to do things. They're different kind of. I'm not that type of a person. I'm not the macho whatever, And some people join the Navy for other reasons, So whatever their reasons are, I don't know. But I joined the Army, and I was presuming I was going to get in the Air Force. See? And then we had a situation after we went in the service. My brother joined with me. My brother's name is Joe. So we were inducted, and we came out to Camp Upton, which is out here, Brookhaven Laboratory, where Brookhaven Laboratory is. We came out here, and when they were loading us on the train, we stayed here for, I think, 3 days or something like that. We were indoctrinated, we got all injections and all the different things like that. Clothing, and that didn't fit, we had to they make jokes about it, but it's true. The coat goes all the way down to your ankles and stuff, you know. So anyway, when they were shipping us out, we didn't know that they ship out to different places, because we took all these tests, you know, these aptitude tests and stuff. So when we were getting on the train, the sergeant that was calling the names, he was calling the names by your last name. He wasn't calling your first name. He wasn't identifying you particularly. So my brother went on one train and I went on the other train. That's the way they called it. And he wound up going to Florida to the Air Force, and I wound up going to the infantry. And he couldn't make it in the Air Force because aptitude-wise, he didn't make it. He wasn't a mechanic. He wasn't qualified for that kind of stuff. But I wound up in the infantry, so he served in the Air Force in my stead. The numbers were actually different after, so many years later when I came back to the States and I got my service record, I seen where they had typewritten my name over the top, you know, on label, and they glued it on top, and his name was underneath. But the service record was his. All the medical, all the information prior, you know, was his. And my records were lost when I was over in Burma. So all the health records and all that stuff were destroyed over there. The individual records, you know, the medical records and stuff, they were destroyed over there. They were on a mule. So that's another story, you know.
Okay, so where did you go for your basic and?
Basic training was down in Camp Wheeler, Georgia. And like I said, the train went down. He continued on. He went down, I think, Pensacola Air Base or someplace, you know. And I went down to Camp Wheeler, Georgia. I never found out where he went until quite a long time after. And we went to Camp Wheeler, Georgia. We didn't know where it was. They didn't tell us where it was. The truck took us in there. We went into the camp. We started, and we got 13 weeks intensive training. They call it intensive training, basic training, you know.
And you had just turned 18.
I had just turned, yeah.
Is this the first time you were away from home for?
No. I had been away from home prior to that. I had been away. I was in the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps.
Where did you go for that?
That was upstate New York. That was upstate New York. So I had experience being away from home. I had experience living in barracks. I had experience living with other fellas in that kind of a setting, you know, where you pull KP, you do other labors around camp and stuff like that, you know. So that was in 1939 and 40 when I was in the CCC. So in fact, I had just turned 16 when I went into the Seas. So, and like I say, my memory is vague. I may miss by 6 months or something like that. Even a year, you know. But anyway, so that being passed, being in Camp Wheeler, I sort of fit right in, you know. But it was amazing the type of thing they had there. One thing I got to say about the service, where we were, the food was excellent, you know. So coming out of the family that I come out of, where, you know, you going by crusts of bread sometimes, you know. We used to have our cereal in the morning actually was stale bread. We'd put a little bit of milk and sugar with it, you know. But going into a camp like that, you're well fed, you're well taken care of. So that was a big change also. So, and being young, I look back on it now, and being young, all those different traumas in your life, you know, they change you, they shape your character. See, probably today somebody would be going to a college or something like that, a university, and they'd have similar kind of changes too, you know. Yeah.
So after Wheeler.
After the training in Wheeler, after the training in Wheeler, Georgia, I excelled in the rifle and so forth like that. I had certain choices, of course. I like the heavier. Excuse me. I like the heavier weapons. I liked something like a Browning automatic, you know. Thompson submachine gun I didn't care for too well.
Why?
But you know, Because if somebody's going to get that close to me, it's going to be a little dangerous, so I want to get him before he gets that close. You know, that's the whole thing there, right? So.
Now, when you were training with rifles, the Grands were
Yeah.
introduced already? Or
I started off with an 03 rifle.
You did an 03.
Starting off with an 03 rifle, yeah. 03 rifle, I had one infield. I didn't like the infield. I liked the 03 rifle. 03 rifle is an excellent rifle, and I also excelled with the rifle grenade. So I fired that from the shoulder, which they said, you know, it's kind of rough, but I could handle it. I did it from the shoulder, so. What else? Down at Camp Wheeler. We went on extensive marches. I think the biggest march we had down at Camp Wheeler was probably about 25 or 35 miles. It wasn't that much, you know. And it may sound like a lot to some people, but a 25 or 35 mile march really isn't that great. It's a good exercise, you know. From there, we went to, they sent us to Fort Meade, Maryland, and that was for processing. And so they sent us there, and then they broke the unit up. And they sent some fellows to one place, some fellows to another. And so I wound up going down to Jackson Barracks in Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana. I went up down there, and I was set to go overseas. So they sent us over, and we went on the SS Florida, I think it was. I think that's what it was called, the SS Florida. And we went through the Tiger Straits and so forth. You know, we had a lot of stories and interesting things about going down that way. I met some good friends of mine while I was in New Orleans. They quarantined us because we were going to be shipped out. They didn't tell us we were going to be shipped out. So we went over the hill. That's the first time we did that. We went over the fence and we went down into town and had a good time down there, you know. And one friend from there, I still have. He's living in Hawaii now, you know. But anyway, so we went from there and we went down to Trinidad. They took us through the Tiger Straits to Trinidad. And near Trinidad is the island of Martinique, Barbados, which of course I knew nothing. I knew no history of the islands. I didn't know archaeology. I didn't know any of that stuff. All I knew was we went down to this island, and then that's when we got the intensive jungle training. Then we went into the jungles. We went for long marches, 90-mile marches, you know, and climbing 50-foot barge nets in the middle of the jungle. They had these nets tied up between trees and stuff, and a rolling pole on top, so when it goes up, it does this, and you try to get over the top and come down the other side. Now, it's very interesting with a pack and a rifle slung on you. So we did that, and then we did the 90-mile march in 3 days, and we got back okay. We did that all right. And then they had the Vichy France had Martinique. So I don't know if you're familiar with Martinique. Martinique is an island. But I guess it's a nice place. It's a British-owned island or French-owned, I think it was at that time. I think maybe it's so. It was Vichy France. So what they were using Martinique as a submarine refueling base and repair center. You know, so they would do all their maintenance on the German submarines. So I don't remember what the year was. I don't remember the timing on it. But anyway, President Roosevelt, we were still in training and everything. President Roosevelt decided that he had to get rid of that base. So the military decided they had to get rid of that base. So they gave us this here training to invade. So we started training barge landings and like that, you know, with these barge craft, these landing craft. And then when they felt that we were ready, he gave Martinique an ultimatum. He gave them 3 days to surrender or we were going to invade them. So they surrendered. See? And that was that. That was the end of that. Then I'm trying to remember exactly. I can't recall. we had an air base over there, Fort Reed, down in Trinidad, and they used to fly reconnaissance over the waters and over Venezuela and like that, you know. So I volunteered. I used to go up with the pilots. They had to have a crew on the plane, 5 men. So they were B-25s. So I used to volunteer because I liked that. I enjoyed the plane. So I used to go up and I used to fly over like Venezuela and like that, you know. Used to view them. Used to get in the turret, get up in the top, and I could look and see everything below me and stuff, you know. It was very interesting. It was a we'll say, an enjoyable time for me, you know. And then they came out with this here thing where they said they had a project, they had something to do, and they needed volunteers. So then we all volunteered. In fact, my whole unit volunteered. I don't know if anyone that didn't that didn't join. And with me was this friend of mine from Camp Wheeler. He had come down there with me, so he had volunteered also. So from there we went. They flew us back to Miami Beach, Florida. We stayed in the Flamingo Hotel, which at that time was it was donated, I guess, to the Army to use for military purposes, but it was still a gorgeous hotel, you know. So we stayed in the Flamingo Hotel, and we were there like 5 days. And then after 5 days of being at the Flamingo Hotel, they put us on trains, blacked out the windows, you know, curtains down and stuff like that. And we drove all the way over went to Texas, all the way across country, and we went to, I can't remember the name of the camp in California. It eludes me. It's a name similar to Jackson or Johnson or something like that. Camp Jackson or Camp Johnson, something like that. We went there, and again they quarantined us. They were going to ship us over. So by now, of course, we were wise. We were smart. We knew what they were doing. So we went over the hill. We escaped. I'll tell you. I'll be frank with you, the whole crowd that I was with there, they were all wild, you know. So we went down to town and we enjoyed ourselves. We had a good time. And then they shipped us out. They sent us. The camp must not be too far from San Francisco because I'm quite sure that's where we shipped out of, San Francisco. And we got on the Loreline, SS Loreline, which was a luxury liner. It was a special, I guess it was an extremely fast boat because when we left San Francisco, we went out and we laid out in the water for I think a day or two, something like that. And then when we started going, we were going full, you know, like full steam, you know, as fast as that boat could go. Really churning the water, and we were by ourselves, no convoy. And we went all the way to New Caledonia, and that's where we picked up the convoy in New Caledonia. And as we went in Caledonia, we took on another group of fellows. So, in other words, we had like 2,000 from the States, from what I understand. I don't know exactly how many. I had no control over that. I was only a private, you know. And we picked up the contingent from the South Pacific, see? And these guys joined us. So that's, we'll say, presumably another 1,000. So that made 3,000. And then from there we went down, after we left New Caledonia, we went down around the bottom of Australia. We stopped in Perth, Brisbane, Sydney, all these, I think 5 ports we made or something. One of them we got out and we marched to town. We went to the town, we walked around down the park and stuff to stretch our legs. We had a couple of beers. Then we got back on the boat, and then we went all the way around the bottom of India, and we went up to Bombay. And then Bombay, we went into the camp. Deborah Garth, I don't recall the name. Yeah, I don't recall the name. It's so hard, you know, it's hard to remember the names. But then we went to the camp, and that was the first camp that I ever seen a sign where it said Kilroy was here. We thought we were the first ones there. Okay? Want to keep going?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, so we stayed there, and we had training there, but in the central that's in the central province of India where we were. And the train line in India goes, like we did over here, like in this country, where we had the train they built from the west coming east and the east coming west, only over there it doesn't meet. See, it goes like this. I think they even made a movie about that. But anyway, it's like this. There's about a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles between the ends. And nobody admits that they made a mistake, so. But anyway, so we stopped over here. We were on this side of the junction. See? And we went to that camp, and we took training there, and it's like practically no trees, because if a tree grows over there, they chop it down right away for firewood or something. So it doesn't get a chance to survive, you know. So it's more like fields, and then they have these water buffalo. They go around, they graze. I think they use them as cows, like, I don't know. But they're water buffalo, so. And we took our maneuvers there, short, wild maneuvers.
Now, did you have any British or Australians training you, or were
Well, not in that place.
They were all American?
No, they didn't train us. They had nothing to do with our training, no. So then what happened, and I'll get to that, because this is this camp. Because we had training wherever we went. The first thing our officers would do would be to take us out, and we'd start doing our own maneuvers. Because what they were doing was they were training us to try to get us to work as a unit and to use different theories of warfare that was never tried before. And of course, we knew it because we knew the book. We had to look at the book. But the thing is, we were doing things that were not regular military tactics. Our tactics were different. So we left that camp, and now we went to another camp for more intensive training and maneuvers. The maneuvers is different than just the training. The training you do yourself. So that's when we came to that junction where the two train lines didn't meet, and we had to get off the train and carry our baggage like 2 miles to get across to the other side to catch the other end of the line. And it's like a desert, you know, you could see there's nothing in between, no trees. So you look over there and you see the end of the train waiting for you over there. So we had to carry it. It's a weird situation, but good. Luckily, we were able to walk and carry the stuff, you know. But it's funny, you know. So we went over there, and we took the train, and we went to the other camp, and I think the other camp was called Debragoth. I think that's what the name of the camp was. And in Debragoth, that's where we had the intensive training. That's where we had the maneuvers with the British, with the Scottish Highlanders. I think there was some Irish, I don't know, I think they were Irish, and quite a few of them. And then we had the Gurkhas and the Indian Army. And so the result is anyway that we outmaneuvered them. We with the tactics that our officers had devised, we were able to overcome them. We took all the gullies, and we didn't go straight in a straight line. We went around individually. We broke up in groups of 5, 5-man squads. And so we moved, we'd have an objective. We'd have a rendezvous point in case something happened where we could leave and we could go to someplace else and meet up, So there was these what they call rice fields, rice paddies, rice fields, and in the center there's like an oasis. It looks like a bunch of trees, and that's like a shelter. So when if it's raining or the sun is too hot, you can go in there and you can get a little relief. So that's where we caught these here Scotchmen, the Scottish Highlanders, and we broke in on them. And our officers figured out just when they were going to have tea. So we waited till they were going to have tea. We went through the gullies and we went in and we captured a whole bunch of them. And we did the same thing to the Gurkhas. We caught them when they were sleeping. So the Gurkhas are supposed to be very good fighters, which they are. They're excellent fighters. And the Scottish are also they're incredible. And we outmaneuvered the Australians. So we did pretty good, you know. And so we got kudos, you know. They gave us a little credit for that. And then we came to Christmas, and we went over the hill. We went over the hill. We broke out. We went to tried to visit all Agra and like that, you know, the Taj Mahal. And some of the guys went in different places. Some fellows went to Calcutta. I don't know how they got there, you know. But we all went a different way. And then, what else? Let me see if I can recall anything else that happened.
Now, were you part of Merrill's Marauders at that point?
No, we weren't. We weren't called anything at that time. At that time, in fact, we had just been given when we reached that camp. We were given the name of the 5307 Composite Unit Provisional. That was the name of the unit. Okay, and of course, an infantry outfit, a composite unit. What are you? It's some kind of a warehouse or something. You know, like if you want to get your clothes, where do you go? Go to the composite. You know. So we had no idea what this unit was, but they had no other way, and they wanted to keep it a secret. See? And on the way on the boat going over, I forgot to mention this, I'm just thinking of it now. On the boat going over, while we were on the lore line going over to India, coming around the bottom of India, they were announced at the Tokyo Roads would announce on the radio all the different things that happened. They did certain things in Bougainville and stuff like that, or whatever, you know. And they had an announcement on there. She had an announcement on there, and she said that the ship with my unit on it, this here ship, they said the lore line with all those soldiers on it was sunk. And they sunk it 5 times. She kept announcing it like 5 times. And which we thought was unique because we were listening to it, you know. And so that's when we got our name. We got the title. We couldn't even get a letter out at that time because we didn't know where to send it. We had an APO New York. You know, that was our post office drop. It was APO New York, and had no kind of address to put on it that you're in this unit, you know. And then they gave us the name 5307 Composite Unit Provisional. So after we got that, then of course we knew what we were, but we didn't agree. We didn't like it, you know. So then they started passing around when we were in Debrigoth, and we were on maneuvers over there, crossing streams. We got pack mules. We got horses. They had to send them over, and we hadn't had them before because I think one of the ships sank with the animals on it or something. It was sunk, you know. So we had to get other animals. You know.
Did you train with them in the United States with
No,
pack animals?
no. We weren't trained with them, no. No, we trained over there. So we had Missouri mules, and I had a friend of mine. In fact, he was one of my ammunition carriers, and he was a big fella. Old Sanowski, his name was, and he was good with animals. He lived in a farm in Orleans, Missouri. And so he used to tend the animals, but he was in my squad. But he used to tend the animals because we used to volunteer to do that, you know. Volunteer to take the animals down to water, you know. You had to get used to dealing with the animals. Although I wasn't a mule skinner, you had other guys who was mule skinners. But you had to be used to having an animal next to you, so you could, you know, if need be, you could take over if something happened to the skinner, you know. And I don't want to get lost. I don't want to lose track now where I am. Yeah. So we had a lot of training crossing streams and stuff, which came in, believe me, was very, very important later on. We had no idea because we didn't know where we were. We didn't know what we were doing. We were in where we were training over there in Debrigoth. That was equivalent to, we'll say, our southwest, like Texas, Arizona, Colorado, you know, like that. was like that. It was like more arid, had ruts and gullies, like arroyos they look like. So that's the kind of area we were in. And so we had to learn how to cross these where there was a stream, and sometimes there was 2, 3 feet, 5 feet, maybe 10 foot of water, and we had to learn how to take these animals across. So that's what we did. We trained for that. And then after we finished the training from there, then we crossed over, and we went to Burma. Didn't go to Burma. We went to Assam, and we went up into Assam to Ledo. And the name of the town by Ledo was Margarita. So there's a name of the town is called Margarita, and then there's Ledo. So I don't know whether Margarita is the original name, but Ledo is what's on the map. See, so we were in Margarita, and we had a camp. They built a camp for us over there, and we stayed there for a few days. And then when the time was right, we all got together, and then we went up to the Ledo Road. We marched the Ledo Road. They were building it. They were bulldozing it at the time. So we marched the Ledo Road. And on the Ledo Road, I was in a truck, and the truck went over a mountain, and I got injured, and I wound up in the hospital. So my guys continued on, and I was in the hospital. Went into the 20th General Hospital. I had a fractured spine, and a fracture, a crack, what they call it, and it didn't go all the way, And then they sent me up to the 20th General Hospital, and 20th General was back in Assam. Because when I was injured, I was in Burma, actually. So then they sent me back. So I was there, and I was there for I think it was something like 21 days or something like that, maybe a little bit longer. And then I was able to walk. I was able to travel. An order came through, and it said and they said anyone that could walk, anyone that could carry a gun would go back in, guys from the hospital and so forth. So then I went in with an 85-man patrol, and I went in with Captain Benfield. So we went in and we skirted around, and we drew the Japanese off of the main unit. Of course, the main unit was in trouble at that time, So we drew them off for that. I don't want to get involved in any kind of military stuff, fighting stuff like that. I'm not interested in that. I don't like those memories, so I get away from that, And let me see what happened then. Well, then after that action, we went in. That's the Mogong Valley. I don't know if you're interested in the Hukwang Valley. So we were down in that area there. We went up on top of these here mountains, and we were watching the maneuvers. And we had a couple of airdrops. They flew our supplies in by plane. They dropped us the supplies. And then I went back. I went back to had to go back to the hospital. I was injured. I was airdrop package came off. They dropped it and it hit a tree, and when it hit the tree, it burst open, and I got hit in the foot with a piece of the baggage. It was a can of, I think it was a can of ham, if I'm not mistaken. Hit the heel of my foot. So anyway, I wound up back in the hospital again. And then from there, when I came out of the hospital, I wound up down in Myitkyina. Now the name of the town is Myitkyina. Are you familiar with the name?
No.
No, okay. I'm trying to think if I had that. I should have brought something with the spelling on it, huh? I didn't bring anything. M-Y-T-I-C-A.
Okay, it's right here, M-Y-I-T-T-A.
Right, that's it, Myitkyina. Yeah, you pronounce it Myitkyina. Oh, where do you have
Sheet
it?
you sent in.
Oh, you have a write-up on it?
Yeah, well, you wrote it.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't, Yeah. Okay, so that was yeah, so we wound up in there, and there was a difficulty taking the airfield. So finally, we got the airfield. We overcame the airfield, because that was the main supply. And the purpose of our going in there, I don't know if I should have said it then, now, or later, whatever. But anyway, the purpose of our going in there was the Japanese had taken the Burma Road. See, the Japanese destroyed the Burma Road, they bombed it out and everything, and they took it away from China. So China had no supplies. See, I didn't know about this at that time. I was only an infantry soldier, I knew nothing, you know. But they had a Roosevelt and so forth, and Churchill, they got together and they decided that we had to help the Chinese out because we didn't have enough people to fight the Japanese, and they wanted to draw the Japanese out of the islands in the Pacific, which the Japanese were in China as it was. They had taken Shanghai, they took Manchuria, they took Burma, you know, they were covering the whole world over there. So in order to get China back into the action, China had no supplies, they had no fuel, they had nothing. So they needed a supply route, and there was no supply route going into China, no way to get through to China.
Mhm.
So the Burma Road had been destroyed. Like I said, the Japanese had it. So the only way to get in to China was to go in to Chongqing through Assam. So now Assam had oil fields in it. Assam had all these different supplies in there, and they could send it through there. So they were building this road, and they were bringing the road through to Michinoor. And from Michinoor up a little bit, I think it was Kunming, I can't remember the name of the town, where they would join the Burma Road and then go into Chongqing. And then they'd have a free road, a wide open road going right into China. A supply route. They could pump oil through there, they could pump gasoline through there for aircraft, food supplies, ammunitions, you know, whatever they needed. See? And at the time, before we went in there, they were flying that stuff over the hump, the Himalaya Mountains, the foothills of the Himalaya Mountains, the Chin Hills. They were flying it over there, the Naga Hills, that's all in there. And they were flying the supplies from India over the hump in C-46s and C-47s. They were flying it into Chongqing and taking it into China. And of course the Japanese were out there trying to knock those planes down. And the Flying Tigers were right where we were. We were in a little town called Dinjan, and the Flying Tigers were there, and the Flying Tigers were knocking out the Japanese Zeros. So that was the protection for our aircraft. And our supplies, when they were flown into us while we were in Burma, the C-46s or C-47s would bring them in. They would drop them to us. I don't know if they were C-46 or C-47. I don't know the planes. In the name, the proper name, you know. But anyway, they would fly to
Chenault's
airdrops.
Tigers were where you were? You were at that base?
It was probably the 14th
Where?
Air Force at that time.
What base?
Where the Flying Tigers were?
No, the Flying Tigers, I know, I met a few of them because they used to come down to, when I was over there in the hospital, I used to go, I wanted to go out and get some drink or something like that, you know. I would meet these guys, you know. They were pretty wild, pretty, you know. Yeah, I met a few of them, and they hung around there, just exactly where they were. The air base, one of the bases they flew out of was in Dinjan. I know because I was there and I seen them, you know. But exactly where their regular air base was, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. And so anytime we had a chance to get down to town to have a good time, we did it. We were young, you know, and they were kind of wild bunch of guys too, you know. Unfortunately, most of them, they're almost all gone now. So. Yeah, so now where was I? Well, then all I can remember from there is that I came back from Michinoor. I went back to the hospital again for my something, I think I got malaria or something like that. There was some reason they shipped me back. They put me on a plane, they flew me back. They had these little L5s. Now, an L5 is like about the smallest you could build an aircraft. There's enough room in the back behind the pilot to put like two stretchers, one on top of the other. And the stretcher is only like that wide. That's as wide as the aircraft is, by the way. The whole width of the aircraft. So when you sit there, like you're sitting on this chair, and that's out and that's out, and if you don't tie yourself in, you're in trouble, and the pilot's in front of you. See? So I was sitting here, the pilot's there, and I didn't put a seatbelt on. And let me tell you something, my knuckles turned white holding onto the seat. So they sent me back. I had to go back to the hospital. And then from there, they sent me on a furlough, and that's when they were having a transition between the different units. I think they created the Mars Task Force, the 475th Infantry. They created the 475th Infantry, and then they gave the 475th Infantry our name, because they wanted to continue the tradition. That's the way they do it in the Army. So because we didn't have any unit, we were called Composite Unit, 5307 Composite Unit Provisional. So they said, all right, so we're going to give you this here. So now you're the 75th Infantry and 475th Infantry and Mars Task Force. So we had already taken Mytchino. That's after Mytchino was taken. And then they formed this here task force. And the task force continued on. A lot of our guys joined that and continued on. But being as I was injured, I couldn't stay with them, So they continued on down. But we had a couple of real serious. They made like 4 movies of my unit. And they have a lot of stuff in there, that I can't possibly cover because I can't even think about it. My mind don't want to dwell on that, But we have a reunion every year, and I go to as many as I can. So like I said, I still have that one close friend of mine that he lives in Hawaii, and that's it. Otherwise, I can't think of anything else to say.
When were you discharged then?
Let me see. December. Yeah, I can't remember that. December 13th, 12th, something like that. 1945.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and I was. Did I write it on there?
Oh,
January.
yes, December 45. Yes.
December. Yeah, December
You don't have to
12th, 13th, something like that. 1945. I was married January 6th, 1945. Because when I got home, the first thing I did was I went and I got hold of my girlfriend and I made plans for marriage. And I got married, so.
No, were you discharged early with a medical discharge?
Well, no, I wasn't discharged. Well, I was discharged at that time. That wasn't considered early, but I was sent home early because I was medical. See, I had problems. And when I got back to the States, that's a whole nother story. I got back to the States and I was put in the, I flew back. Almost everything except this here. This is my one treasured souvenir, if you want to call it that. This I picked up in New Caledonia. You can see can you read it in here? Somewhere in there?
Oh, yes, I see that.
Yeah, okay. I picked that up in New Caledonia, and that's about one of the only things that I brought back. And this, just to show you, this is from the jungle rot and everything, because that was hanging on my side. Can you see it?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because that was hanging on my side and it sort of rotted. And this didn't come out until much later, that piece there,
No, I don't know. Can you focus on I don't know if you can write it,
yeah.
focus on New Caledonia.
Probably if you turn it over, the light will
You
get
have
on
to
it.
go
Yeah.
farther back because it's all blurred. Maybe if he holds it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you hold it right there, I think I can.
Like
hold
that?
It
it.
says
Can you do
New
it?
Caledonia, it'll be upside down.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I could turn it over and it would
Now,
look
did
better.
someone-
Hold it right there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did someone custom make that for you, or were they just, they were made?
Well,
by someone?
no, the natives in New Caledonia, they swam out, and they came out in these here little outrigger boats, you know, that little like canoe with an outrigger on it. And they came out, they were swimming and everything, and they were looking for anything we would throw down to them. And they brought all kinds of garlands out to us. They had young ladies there and stuff. And they had these here little treasures you could pick up. So I needed a knife anyway. I had a knife. I had a regular army jungle knife, what they call an army jungle knife, which rotted away on me and destroyed because. But I had other things, you know, other stuff. But I needed another weapon, and I seen this here, and I said, that looked good, you know. That's a nice looking throwing knife. It's excellent for throwing. And at that time, I would be able to throw it from here to that wall there and hit a man or something like that. It was pretty good, you know. So that's why I like that.
Now, you were primarily a BAR.
Yeah, right. So my choice of weapon was the BAR.
So you carried a BAR, did you carry any other?
Yeah, I had a, I don't remember what it was. It was a small weapon. It was I think it was a 38 or something, Smith & Wesson.
Now, did you purchase that on your own? or-
Well, yeah, well, you know, you pick these things up. I can't remember where I got most of it. This, because I've kept it all these years, the memory stays with me, but there's other things that I had, like cigarette lighters and things like that. I used to smoke a lot, you know. These things that you picked up from here to there, you forget them, you know, until all of a sudden you see it and it brings back a memory.
Now, how did you keep your BAR? Did you have to do a lot of work on it to keep it operable?
Well, I took good care of it. I kept it clean all the time. It was always clean in my gun. Yeah, it was always clean in my gun. I had 3 regular ammunition carriers. I've had 2 extras, 2 other guys that carried ammunition for me. But I had 3 carriers that they always carried ammunition for me. They had bandoliers and so forth, you know, and then I carried my own ammunition, and I had to have a lot of ammunition. So this guy Olsenowski, he was one of my bearers. Then I had another guy, Brown, and I think the other guy's name was Patton. I don't remember, but they were like my standard bearers, you know. I found the BAR to be an excellent weapon, you know. Now they have the M16, which does basically the same thing that BAR did, only it's a much lighter weapon, and it has a high impact trajectory, you know. And but I mean, I like the BAR. I fired the M16. I fired the other one, that other machine gun that they have. I can't think of the name of that now, with the handle on the top. I fired that. Huh?
The M60 machine?
M60?
31, is it? Is there a
Was
31 or
this
something?
during World War II you fired the machine?
No. I went down to train. Oh, I'm sorry. I went down, yeah. After we got together at one of my reunions, we went down to the Ranger base down in Eglin Air Force.
Oh, okay.
Base,
Yeah,
is
it's
it?
probably the M60 machine gun.
Yeah, it's I fired that and everything, and they asked my preference, and I told them, I said I would rather have I don't mind the extra weight if I got the impact, you know. So I used that little gun, and I shot at this here stump down there. I got pictures at home of myself firing it. This is much later, of course. I was much older, you know. And I went down there to one of my reunions. It was somewhere in the 1968 or 1969. And I fired down there, and I shot at this here stump, and I put little pinholes in it, and knocked the back of it out, but I put little pinholes in it, and it was still standing. If I would have shot at that thing with my BAR, I would have taken the stump down. you know? So it's a whole difference in the impact. One thing, if you shoot at something, you see you did it. But when you shoot at something, you see you didn't. Yeah, you want to see some evidence, you know? So I just prefer the BAR, you know? Yeah.
Do you remember where you were and your reaction when you heard about Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Where was I at that time? I think I was home. I think I was where was I? You know, like you're telling me, because when I came back to the States, let me continue on, and maybe it'll come to my brain. You know, when I came back, they sent me out here to Camp Upton because I had physical problems. I had the back, and I had, of course, your thinking is altogether different. You know, I couldn't go to sleep at night unless I had my knife under my pillow. This is how bad I was, you know, and at that time in those days, and so I was out there in the camp, and they had me being evaluated out there, what to do with me and so forth. So they asked me the doctor asked me if I couldn't carry anything. I couldn't carry a pack anymore. I couldn't carry my BAR anymore. So they asked me would I want to do anything. Would I carry a sidearm and so forth. So I says, yeah. I says if I could, you know, I wanted to do something. So they gave me the option. I could drive, like a car, a chauffeur-driven car or something like that. I couldn't drive anything big, or I could go on what they call chasing prisoners, guarding prisoners of war. They had Italian prisoners and they had German prisoners. So I opted to chase prisoners, and they sent me upstate, and I went to Medina, New York, and I guarded prisoners up there. Then I went to Dunkirk, New York, and at Dunkirk was the place I spent most of my time. At Medina, New York, we had an incident up there where a couple of guys went over the fence. And so the FBI came in, and the FBI was chasing them and everything, you know. And the prisoners went on the reservation. So I don't know if they escaped or not. But I mean, that's one of the things, and I was very upset over that a German prisoner escaped the camp. How could you let this guy escape? But the fellows that were guarding the prisoners at that time had never been overseas. They were not military trained. They were just like MPs. They were just like guard duty, you know. And they didn't realize the importance or how dangerous these guys could be.
How large were the camps at Medina?
How old were they?
How large were the camps there and at Dunkirk?
About as big as the camp in Medina was we'll say as big as, we'll say, the local school over here, the schoolyard. You know what I mean? The school and the schoolyard. That's like as big as the camp was, you know. And they had us in one building. We stayed in one building. We had our barracks in there and so forth. The prisoners were in another building, a barn type of building. And then the yard was about as big as the schoolyard, and that was it. And that's where the prisoners stayed. And what they would do with the prisoners, the German prisoners or the Italian prisoners they had down in New Jersey, most of them, I guess. But the German prisoners, they used to rent them out, and because there was no men to man the factories, the produce factories all over New York State, all over the country, they had produce factories where they had to make processed food. They had to pick stuff out of the fields to can and like that, you know. I didn't know the whole process. They're getting beans, they're getting tomatoes, whatever the things they're taking out of the ground, potatoes, you know. So all this stuff had to be packaged, canned, and processed. Milk had to be processed. So what these companies would do, like, what was the name of it? Clem, I think that was Borden's. I think it was Borden's, I'm not sure. I think it was Carnation. There was 3 or 4 companies up there that I got the names in the back of my head. That grape juice, what is it? Welch's grape juice Yeah,
Moriches.
that was another one, different ones. So they had these processing plants, and what they would do is rent these prisoners out. So when they rented the prisoners out, prisoners were paid, according to the Geneva Convention, they're paid so much, like $1 a day or whatever it was. And so we would have to take them out. So I'd take, like, we'll say 30, 35 prisoners. You know, I'd take them out, and I'd take them out in the field. And they'd farm, and I'd be there watching them, you know. So I tell them when I first took them out, I tell them in plain English and let them figure out what I said. There's always at least one of them in there that knows what you're saying. I tell them, don't try to get away because you're not going to, you know, and that's it. And I took them out, and then they'd go and they'd do their thing. They'd farm, or they're working in the processing plants. They would package the stuff, move things around, cartons, cases, load trucks. They did all that work, and so that's the way we did it. There's one place, was a slaughterhouse down in Dunkirk where they butchered the meat over there. They brought the cows in, they brought all the animals and the livestock, and these guys were trained, they were butchers, they were very good. And so they did that. And we had to bring them there. I didn't like to stay in and watch them do that, but so I would stand by the door and I would make sure that, you know, everything was okay. But they were good. I got along very well with the prisoners, I think. Yeah.
After the war, did you make any use of the GI Bill?
Yeah. I think I took all 52 weeks that I got coming to me.
Oh, that's the 5220 Club?
5220.
Okay. Did you join you joined veterans organizations?
Yeah.
Or at least
I joined the VF. And when I was in Dunkirk, New York, I was voluntarily taken into the, I was invited down to go down to the post. And they brought me in, and they gave me a card. I still have the card at home. I belong to that post up there. I was, what do you call it? I don't know, honorary member, whatever, however it is. And they brought me in because I was in the area, and they accepted me right into the unit. And now I belong to the American Legion also. Yeah.
How do you think your time in service changed or affected your life?
Oh, definitely. I would have went on to I would have continued my education, my college education. I would have went on to college. I could have become, who knows, a doctor, lawyer, who knows. I mean, I have no idea which way it would have went, because we all have different talents, you know. And I mean, just the fact that my brother was on one train and I was on the other. Just the fact that my brother was on one train and I was on the other. I could have been in the Air Force. I could have been a pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you tell us when this? I know you told us prior to this.
That picture was taken. That picture was taken in. I think that was taken in Margarita. I think that's where that picture was taken, in the little town of Margarita.
Now, you told us that was taken as a tin type?
That was taken as like a tin type, and then I had it made into a little photograph, and then I sent the letter, sent the picture to my. I couldn't take it with me.
Yeah, but someone there hand colored it for.
Yeah, they paint it. That's the way they do it. They take the picture and it's like a black and white, and then the guy and the girl and they're very artistic, and they paint it in there. So as you can see, the color.
Yeah.
Look at my blush cheeks over there. It looks like I put some kind of cosmetics on, right? Yeah, and so now the picture is getting a little a little old. It's getting a little old, but the thing is that it shows up like that, like it looks like I'm all made up, you know. And I sent that to my mother, of course.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your interview.
Okay.